Hi everyone. Very, very happy to have JC and Karen Hite from Hite Digital with us today. We've got a webinar on retention of clients for digital agencies. I think it's a really good topic to have a deep look at, particularly following 2023. I think 2023 was a very tough year for a lot of the agencies in our network, certainly, particularly around not being able to balance the number of clients that we're losing with replacement clients that we're getting too. It was definitely recessionary pressures last year, and it was a bit of a struggle for all of us. So a bit of an introduction for JC and Karen. Honestly, they've been helping digital agencies. I've been aware of these guys for probably 2 or 3 years, and we've sort of been paralleling each other in some areas and going to the same events and not really bumping into each other until recently. But I can't think of a couple who have had more experience from different perspectives in supporting digital agencies. So they're pretty much, as a support for digital agencies, they've done everything. They've been an agency. They've acquired agencies, they've set up a franchise model for agencies, they've done white label support for agencies, and they create mastermind groups bringing agencies together to talk about common issues. So, basically seen it all from every angle. So really I can't think of anyone better to give us insights on how to retain clients for digital agencies. So that being said, JC, Karen, over to you. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about what your focus is on at the moment as far as supporting agencies, and then we can jump into the retention session.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate you having us. This is, I tell people we've probably lost more clients than anyone at this point. We've been around a long time. We have a lot of clients, and it's been a great journey, but that's just part of it. It's part of the system to lose clients. So I appreciate you allowing us to be here, and I've got about 15, 20 minutes of some really good stuff, I think, that can add a lot of value and hopefully can just help kickstart some thought processes. As you said, we've been in the space a long time. Even before Hite, we were at another agency. We grew that to about 350 team members. All we did was Google pay-per-click. We were on the Inc. list 6 years in a row. Hite has been on every list every time since we've started as well. Next year will be our 3rd year. You got to be in business 3 years to be eligible, and it's been a great season. Now, a lot of our work in the agency space, we have a mentorship program, but then also it's around M&A. Like, how are we acquiring, buying, partnering with? And it's been a lot of fun. So, yeah, it's been exciting. So are you cool? We jump in and start talking churn?
Yep, let's get going. Let's get into the meat.
So here's what I would say. I think one of the things I want to say, I want to show a report. I actually did a report with DigitalMarketer because one of the things that we asked ourselves was, what is normal? Like, there's so often as an entrepreneur, there's no rule book on this entrepreneurship. There's no like, this is what you should do. This is what you shouldn't do. Here's the numbers. If I said, guys, 5% is what you should, be okay with churning every month. Like, is that good? Is that bad? Is that on par? Like, the reality is most of us don't know our numbers. And so we went out and we started digging up, doing research and trying to find a lot of stuff on what does churn look like and what are actual things that we can consider in our agency to help lower churn. The reality is as we grow and scale our business, your churn is going to become more and more precedent. So if you lose, let's just say you lose 10% of your clients every month. Well, if you've got 10 clients, well, you're going to lose one and you need to sell one to break even, right? Had a net zero growth. Once you get to 100, now you got to sell 10 to break even. Once you get to 1,000 clients, which was my agency before Hite, we had to sell 100 clients a month. If our churn rate was 10%, we had to sell 100 clients a month just to stay on par. Churn rate becomes more and more increasingly important as we go. So here's where I want to start. Ron,
can I just ask you a quick, sorry, Jason, can I just ask you a question on that
go
point?
For it.
Did you find as you scaled from 10 clients, 100 clients through to 1,000 clients that your churn rate increased? Or did you
100%.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah. And the reason it is because you're layers against, there's two categories of why people will move on. There's the logical category, right? ROI. And then there's the emotional category. Okay. The reality is we like to think that we're all logical decision makers in our business, but we're not. We're not at all. And so this emotional deal of like, when you're dealing with the owner, there's a little bit more emotional tie to the business. When you're dealing with employee number 200, which is your third account manager since you've been on in 6 months, it becomes a little bit more complex, right? So yeah.
Yeah, perfect. So for the agency owners going down
interrupt me at all
scale, they should be considering my churn rate's going to increase as we grow.
Yeah. That's right. So here's what I'll say, and by the way, that came out in some of the data, which I'll show here in a little bit, on how big you are and how much your churn. My goal is by the end of this chat, you walk away with knowing, am I doing good or am I a little behind the ball, right? That's my goal. And because what's going to happen here is if you're good, you just need to go focus on sales. If you're behind the ball, you may want to stop, focus on product, focus on service, focus on churn, and then start to scale more. But you need to know, like, am I good or am I not? Am I in a good position? So the first thing I want to say right off the bat is actually how to, and one of the key things we've done at Hite on what I believe has dramatically helped us improve churn. Ron Kaufman wrote the book on levels of service. And all we got to do is we got to think about, again, I just mentioned here, people buy emotionally. We don't buy logically most of the time. We buy emotionally. So the more we can connect with people, the more we can build an emotional relationship with people, the easier it is to overcome mistakes when they happen. It's that simple. And so what I would want you to do, if you're watching this webinar, what I want you to do right now is I want you to take a pencil and paper, and I want you to write down 3 touch points in your business, 3 moments when you interact with clients. That could be a monthly report. That could be the first intro call. That could be an onboarding call. That could be a weekly call. That could be a cold outreach call, on the sales side. It could be a closing. Just write down 3 or 4. And what I want to do is I want to go through these like levels of service, and I just want you to simply think, like, where do I fit on the category? Am I level 1, 2, 3, or 4? And then we're going to be thinking, it's going to spark the mindset of going, how do I increase this level of service? How do I take this to another level? Because again, the more touch points we can take to another level, the easier it is to overcome churn. So the first level, I got a little whiteboard here, and I think this will come out right. The first level is basic. Basic is where, to be frank, a lot of us live. Basic just simply means I'm living by the rules. I sold you PPC, and by golly, I'm doing PPC. I told you we'd have an onboarding call at 3 o'clock on Tuesday. We had an onboarding call at 3 o'clock on Tuesday. You don't want to go to McDonald's and order a hamburger and get chicken nuggets. That's the idea. We don't want to live here, but it's the reality of the first level, right? The next level is expected. What do you think? You got to really sit down. We're thinking about increasing our churn, increasing our lifetime value of clients. What do your clients expect from that touch point you wrote down? When they walk in and getting ready for the call, what are they hoping for or expecting when they jump on? And are you meeting it? Are you showing up on time? Are you coming with information? And you can flip this around, guys. When you go into a sales call somewhere, when you when you come out with Karen and I, and you're thinking about coming to the commitment summit, like, what is the expectation? Okay, expectation. The next level, and I'm going through these super quick. I've given 2-hour talks and workshops just on this alone. The next level is desired, right? Desired. So let's think about this in terms of email communication. And we're going to go email communication. So let's say Damien shoots me an email. It's Friday. It's Friday afternoon. It's about 3 o'clock on Friday. At minimum, he wants me to respond, right? I've got to respond. His expectation is probably, it's Friday afternoon. JC hopefully he'll respond. He'll respond Monday or Tuesday. His desire is that, man, I really need this information back. Man, I really hope he'll respond this weekend, right? I really hope he'll get back to me in the next few hours, right? So we think about this logic in our business, right? What does your client expect from you on that onboarding call, on that sales call? What do they expect from you on the weekly account management call or the monthly report? But then what is their desires? And as we start thinking about this, you're going to start going, yeah, I'm probably on that expected level with that touch rate. Okay, cool. How do we uplift our service? But there's two more levels. The next level is surprising. Holy cow. Man, we've went to these things before where you walk away and you're like, oh my God, dude, and they say something very key. I wasn't even expecting that. I wasn't even thinking about that. How often are we surprising our clients? And the crazy thing is here, guys, we're in the agency space. Normally we have decent margins. A client pays us $2,000 a month. It costs us probably $1,000 to fulfill. That's $1,000 margin. Think of how many things I could do with $1,000, or if taking half that. If I took half of that money, $500, and I got a $500, I could get a jersey signed from their favorite football team. Now, what's the chances of them canceling on me in the next couple months? It's not likely. Now, it's not that I'm just buying them to overcompensate crappy work. That's not what we're doing here, guys. What we are doing, though, is connecting on this emotional level. We're connecting on this way that if we fall short, however we fall short, we're building that relationship. The goal is when there's a problem, Damien goes, hey, JC, man, I'm sorry to bother you, man, but I didn't get my monthly report last night. I was going to see maybe something happened. We wanted this emotional connection here. And the last level here is unbelievable. And I ran out of marker space because I wrote basic too bad, but it's unbelievable. What ends up happening when we give a surprising and unbelievable service is people start talking. They recommend us. They comment. They'll go out of their way when some random person comments on Facebook, I need a marketer. You're like, you should talk to JC. He's incredible. And I will tell you the one thing that's helped me in my business outside of this churn report that we're going to show you on some like logical stuff from an emotional standpoint. This is one thing in your business today that you could literally go through and just think, okay, where do I stand on each one of these touch points? And we have hundreds of touch points with our parents. Oh, by the way, I do talk sometimes on how to build a team because we've been really blessed to build a really great team. What do you think I start off with on how to build a great team? This is how you treat your team. Oh, by the way, sometimes I get the opportunity at church sometimes to speak on marriage and family, and we talk about interacting with our spouse. Here it is, right? Like this is kind of that formula of like relationships and really understanding at the different touch points. My wife expects me to be home at 5, but man, I know she'd like me to get home by 4. Every once in a while, I get home early at like 12. And then even sometimes I show up with flowers and ice cream. Right? She wasn't expecting that, but guess what happens? This is what we call wife miles, right? Like I can do something and not get in trouble because I've built the rapport. You see what I'm saying? So I like this because I believe the relationships are the key to most things that we want to solve in our lives. And if you think about sales, by the way, this is it. You're going to think about service, this is it. And so I like to start off in that point. And does that make sense? I don't know. Hopefully that resonates a little bit. And so, okay, now I want to jump into this churn report. So again, going back to this idea of most of us as agency owners, and it's balancing these polarities, right? My business is never going to be perfect. And so I've got do I focus more on operations, or do I go and focus on sales and let operations kind of live? Do I focus here, or do I focus there? And you're always, as you grow and scale, you're going to be constantly as a business trying to think, am I good? At the end of the presentation, I'm going to show you the number at Hite that as long as I'm under this churn rate, I couldn't care less on operations, on product, on fulfillment. I let my team go balls to the wall, whatever they want to do, and I don't even think about it. All my focus is on growth. You want to know how we've hit the Inc. 5000 list 3 times? Because I try to just 100%. We get churn, we pissed off a client, it doesn't matter to me as long as we're under that churn rate. I mean, it does, but it doesn't. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Hopefully that makes sense, right? Okay, let's jump into this churn presentation here. I'm going to do a screen share. If that works, I got to put on my glasses so I can read certain points here. Churn report 2024. We did this in collaboration with DigitalMarketer, with Ryan Dice and those guys, and this is what we found. I'm going to bring out my whiteboard again. So we are going to dive into some things here, right? This is just what churn looks like. So you can read this later. By the way, if you want a copy of this, we can put this in the link. It's theheights.com/resources. So first thing is just defining churn. What do we mean by this, right? So I explain it here, but how we measure churn at Hite is from a financial level. So if I've got these 4 clients, a client that pays me $1,000, $5,000, 2, and 3, that total is $11,000. If I lose client A, 1,000 out of 11, that's what, 9% churn, right? If I lost client B, that would be almost 45% churn, right? So we're only focused on the financial revenue of the business. Now at Hite, we do keep client churn as well, but at the end of the day, money is what pays my employees, my teams, and my systems. So that's the churn that I really care about. So what we do is every month, when we come into the month, here's our list of clients that paid us last month plus our new clients. That's what should pay us coming into this month. If they don't pay, then they count as churn. If a client pays me in October, let's just give a couple of examples here. If they pay me on October 15th and they cancel October 20th, it is not cancellation for me in October because they paid October's invoice. It will then be cancellation in November, right? So the math has to add up. We can have a whole nother class on that, but let's get going. 15, I'm going to skip this slide, actually. We're going to skip this one. So here's one of the biggest things that helped us in understanding where churn happened. So I created this little chart. You can see it kind of here on the right-hand side. And I put all of my churn for my business into 4 categories. Expectations, meaning that there was some unalignment of what we could do. Now, in expectations, it might be my fault, where I have a sales guy that just sold them something foolishly, or it could be the client fault. Man, they told the client it was going to take 6 months to get results, but and they quit in 3 months because it wouldn't wait. Second, I have communication. Okay, so this is we couldn't build rapport with the client, we couldn't connect with the client, or we tried to and we just didn't work. Number 3 is product. Like product did not meet what we thought it should. And then number 4 is external. What this means is normally we're categories and like, we don't even know what happened. Man, the product was good. We felt the client was good. We felt the expectations was good, but they churned on us. Guys, this is so critical for businesses. If you want to grow and scale, if you want to have an exit one day, the more data you have, the better. So all we do is we have this Excel sheet. It's very simple, just like what you see here. I put Bob's roofing. Bob churned on me. And then I do what's called a casting of stones. So with every client, I have 5 stones. I can put all 5 in one bucket, like with Bob's roofing. I said, dude, this is 100% on expectations, right? But most of the time, it's going to be split up. It's going to be a little of this and a little of that. Cindy's plumbing, man, product had probably the most to do with it, but to be frank, it was a little bit of everything. George's pools, 100% not on us. They got acquired. They were super happy. Other company had something. We don't know. Karen's cleaner. And then what I'm doing is I'm adding up all these totals and dividing them out so I understand them from a percentage standpoint. What we found, going back to this slide here, what we found at Hite, that 15% of our churn was due to unaligned expectations. 15% of our churn had to do with communication. 20% had to do with product, but 50% had to do with things that we felt we couldn't do anything about. The next thing that we do with this chart, guys, if you really want to get good at this, is we actually have 2 people fill out this form on every single client. The account manager, responsible for the client, always fills it out. And then whoever their manager or a CEO fills it out. Why do we do that? We do that because a lot of times the biggest problem in your business is that the leadership in your business isn't even aligned on what the problem is. In my marriage, if I'm over here going, man, babe, the problem in our marriage is that we don't have enough money to go do the cool things that we want to do. And then my wife is like, no, the problem in our marriage is you don't listen to me. Okay, the first problem is we're not aligned on what the problem is. And so often in business that happens. Me as the CEO, man, product is always the issue. But my head of fulfillment is like, no, sales is the issue. And my head of sales is like, no, this is the, right? So we got to get aligned before we can ever really go out and solve things, right? So what this allows me to do is over the course of history, understand where my churn and why my churn is happening. Does that make sense? Halfway makes sense. Okay, cool. So what is the normal churn? All right. What we found was the agencies doing at least 40,000 in revenue, 8% was kind of the core metric. In fact, at Hite, I'll tell you right now, if my team does 8%, this is that number. I don't ask questions. Now, there's caveats, and we're going to go through them, because 8% is for what I do in business. It's with my style of clients, with my style of leadership, and it's with the strict system and structure that I have set up. 8% means that if you're doing 100,000 in revenue, you're going to lose 8,000 in clients, right? This is what we found as the low end of the average. Now, so what I want you to do as an agency, if you're watching this is your baseline. You got 8% right now. You're holding tight to that, but we're going to manipulate this number. We're going to manipulate this number. Okay. What we found, here we go. We're going to start doing this, right? This first one, if your agency, following these variables below, and I haven't looked at this report, I guess today, is this switched on me? Yeah. Okay. So if you're the agency owner and you do all of the work, all right, if you're the agency owner and you do all the work, meaning the agent, so this goes back to Damien's first question, as you grow and scale, does churn lower? If you're the agency owner and you do all the work, we're actually going to deduct 25% from that 8, meaning that if you're the agency owner and you manage all the account management, the relationships with the clients, you shouldn't be expecting 8. You should be expecting 6, right? We're going to have to do some math here, all right? So my baseline is 8%. Baseline is 8%. If you're an agency owner that does all of the account management, you should actually be looking at 6%. If you're above 6, you got a problem. If you start hiring account managers, we're going to add 20%. So that means that you should be looking at 9.6% is probably closer to your baseline. You see what I'm doing here? Makes sense? 8% is the baseline. If you are an owner, and this is the hardest one, you'll get the formula after this. If you're an owner and you do 8% as the baseline and you manage all the account management, your new baseline is 6. If you're doing above 6, you need to look at the operations. You need to look at the fulfillment. You look at the systems. If you've got other account managers managing the your clients, now our baseline is increased. So let's keep going here, because these are going to compound with each other. These are going to compound with each other, all right? Factors of years. If you're a new agency owner, you just don't know as much as some of the others. It's impossible. Man, to this day, we've been doing agency work now for 12 years, and I'm learning stuff every day. So we found this out. If you're an agency owner that's under 1 year in business, I'm going to add another 1%. What does that mean? If you're an agency owner, your baseline's 8%. You have hired an account manager. I don't talk to clients, and I've only been in business 1 year. We're going to add another 10% here, which puts you at, give or take, let's say 10.5% is your baseline. If you're an agency owner, you manage all of the clients, and you've been in business above 2 years, meaning you know how to communicate, you know how to sell, you know how to set those expectations. This is going to lower by 10%, which means your new number should be 5.4%. If you're a boutique agency owner and you're doing all the client work and you've been in business 2 years and you're doing above 5.6%, 5.4%, you got to go back and look at your systems and product. I'm telling you guys, we're doing a lot of math. It's kind of boring, but I'm telling you, you'll get to an end number and it'll be really good. It'll be really good. The next one is, what type of clients are you selling? What type of clients are you selling? So what we found here was that if you're doing pay-per-click, we're not going to change anything. That's kind of in that baseline of that 8% model, and it follows the formula. If you're doing SEO, you can lower back down your 20%, right? You can actually lower your expectation by 20%, meaning that I could take 20% off this 5.4. Or, hey, I have an account manager. He manages all the clients, but all we sell is SEO. I can lower this number by 20%. It's going to get me back closer to the 8 mark, right? What we found there, here's the kicker. If most of your business is Facebook ads, you're going to increase your churn expectation by 50%. A lot of people don't like to hear this, but I'm telling you, it's so true. Why? There's a lot of reasons why it would get that out to the customer. But if we found that even if you're an owner, even if you've been in business for 2 years, even if you're managing all the clients, if all you do is Facebook ads, you can take the 6 and you can take it back up to a 9. You can take this 5 and you can make it back up to an 8. Why? All right, let's get into this a little bit. Facebook ads, lead quality, cost. There's a lot of factors here. Well, no, we're not going to go in it. We'll say that for another conversation. The next one was contracts. Guys, I remember when Hite did this, I was always a fan. I was always like, no, we want our customers to stay with us because they love us and we don't want to hold them into anything. And what I found was I finally realized that contracts are really great because what they do is they get us through rough times. This is the difference between my wife having a marriage and we're just dating. We have a little bit more obligation to each other, right? This is the difference between when your client has a bad day and like, screw this, and they sign up with another client and they just go for it. And then like, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Well, it's already done. Contracts are really key. So at Hite, we put in 12-month contracts. Every single one of our clients, guess what our churn did? Well, it certainly didn't go up. It went down. We found that agency owners that had contracts in place, they could lower their expectation by about 20%. And the last category here that I want to chat about is the client requirements. An example of this is we've got some HVAC friends, and what they do is you have to have 2 trucks. If you don't have 2 trucks, we don't work with you. Unfortunately, we work with people that are just a little bit bigger. Hey, we only work with roofers that do $1 million in revenue. If you don't do $1 million in revenue, we can't work with you. We found that people that were more picky, not only did their sales increase, by the way, but they were able to retain these clients a lot longer. Why? Well, there's a difference. There's these phases of businesses, and a lot of us are in them, where when we first start doing our marketing agency, we're just really good marketers. We're really good salespeople. But as you scale and grow, as you get to that $1 million plus, you can't grow and scale just being a good marketer or a good salesperson. You got to become a good business owner. And that takes a lot of different mindsets, a lot of different ideas across the board. So all of this stuff added together, what we found is if you take it all, like if you have an agency where I'm the owner, it's boutique, I manage all my clients, everyone's on contract, we're doing all these things, my expectation should be that I keep my agency at around 3.6%. Now, you do all of those things, but I don't do all the account management. I let someone else do that. Okay, we'll just increase that number back up by, I think it was 30% was the number. It was a 20% up and then another 20%. So now you're looking at about 6%. Man, I do all this, but I don't do contracts. I don't put any of my clients on contracts. Okay, that's fine. But that's going to increase that expectation by 20%. In fact, you could do it the other way. I don't have it listed on here, but I think if you did all of these, if you ran an agency where I'm the owner, but I don't do any of my clients. I don't manage any of my clients. All we sell is Facebook ads. All we do, we don't do contracts at all. We don't. We keep going through all of them. We found that those agencies were closer to that 15 to 17% churn mark. What you're doing there is you're putting a lot of weight on your sell side. You're putting so much weight on your sell side because what you end up doing there, you got 10 clients, you lose 15, 20%, dude, you're having to sell 2 or 3 clients every single month. It's this rotation that just, it's really hard to solve. And as you grow and scale, to Damien's point, it's going to get worse and worse and worse, right? Because you get 30 clients. Well, now you got to sell 6 to break even. You get 100 clients. Now you got to sell 20 to net growth, right? Churn is so incredible, but understanding the data points behind what increases and decreasing churn holistically across agencies for our company has been really key, and for our students have been really key because it allows us to find a framework of expectation. What is good? What is bad?
So JC, really love the detail you put into here and the mathematics behind it. I 100% agree. The more data we have and when we can break things down like this, it just gives us the tools we need to make our businesses better. So amazing report. I've got a minutiae question around the contracts.
Yeah.
So obviously, when we're talking about these percentages, we're talking about financial churn.
Yes.
Yeah, cool. So do you find, like when I used to have my agency, I sold my agency back in 2013 to do Globital, and I never used to use contracts. And similar sort of mindset that you're talking about. The question I've got is, you've got a 12-month contract in place. Do you find that churn, like that gives the client a definite point to reappraise the service, which obviously you can create strategy around, but do you find that that makes a point of inflection for churn? Or does that, I mean, obviously you layer it with the next level of contract afterwards, whether it's 6 months, 12 months, whatever, but yeah, do you find that there's an inflection point there?
Well, I mean, you definitely have this, right? You got 12 months in a year, right? So 8% of your clients could churn at any given month. And the goal is to retain a big portion of those, right? And so, yes and no. There's two. I think they're almost like opposite mirrors of looking at churn. So one is like the churn rate itself, and the other is lifetime value, right? So lifetime value is how much am I charging, and then how long are they staying with me, right? But this ability to have clients staying longer dramatically impacts what I can afford to pay for a new client, right? Which again, I'm leveraging this to give my sales and marketing team as much power and wiggle room as possible to help us grow. And I will state this: I've never came after anyone from a client standpoint that owed me money. People will break the contracts. This isn't, I'm not. I haven't sent anyone to court or anything like this, or sent it to collections, right? Like the contracts are just simply, it reinforces the client's commitment when they sign up. No client has ever signed up going, no, I'm going to, like we don't sign up clients that are going to cancel it. To every client is, if it goes well, I'm going to keep giving you more money. If it goes well, we're going to stay forever. Like, they're all gung ho, but signing that contract just puts in a little bit more
commitment. Yeah. Do you find that, I mean, is the idea for the people watching, is the idea that, look, I know that my churn rate or my average lifetime in time-wise is 10 months. So I'll sign a 12-month contract to try to get that extra couple of months before we have the conversation? Or is more the logic should be, we've got 12 months to perform, let's make sure that they re-sign after 12 months?
Well, if your average is 10 months without contracts, that means that half of your people are staying 4 or 5 months, right? Yeah. And so by having that minimum of 12, it should double your average, right? Because the ones that are already staying 2 years or a year or 18 months are going to continue that, but then you're going to also force those staying 3 or 4 months, on up to that 12, right? And again, data is something, and I know this. I was in finance before I was in the agency space. You've been in the space a long time. People don't keep up with their numbers. So when I hear an agency owner tell me, oh, my clients on average stay 10 months, one trick I have, you may do this too, Damien. One trick I have, especially in the M&A space when I'm looking to acquire an agency, I'll reverse engineer them into it. So what I'll say is, hey, what's your churn? Oh man, I never lose a client. I mean, maybe 3%. Okay, cool, man. Yeah, Damon, how long have you been in business? Oh, we've been in this 3 years. How many clients do you sell on average per month? Oh, we sell about 10 clients a month. Okay, so in my mind, 3 years, 10 clients a month. Okay, and you 10 clients. You've been doing that for a while. Yeah, man, we're really good at the sales side. We never lose. Okay, cool. How many clients do you have? 22. Wait. The math doesn't work there. No churn, 10 clients a month new, and you have 20 something. And I have to, because people don't keep up with their numbers. Yeah. They don't. And so, but normally what they mean whenever they say that is they mean like my fault churn that leaves from my fault, which is normally BS. Like all churn is your fault in some way, shape, form, or fashion. We just haven't gotten to the root problem yet. So, yeah.
Yeah, cool. So from the data that you're seeing, the simple fact is contracts work better to keep clients than not having them.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah. I agree.
Cool. So tying it all together, if people realise that doing the mathematics, they're underperforming what their baseline churn should be, do you have any suggestions?
I would go back to the first to the talk. Levels of service is going to impact your churn more than anything. Again, we found out that 50% of our churn, and this is 3 years of data at Hite, hundreds and hundreds of clients, 50% of our churn are things that I believe the relationship had the biggest impact. Like there were things that we couldn't really, like the performance was going good, the communication was, but I would say that's number one. And then I would go into some of the other, when you do your, what I call that castings of stones, why are clients churn, and focus on the thing that's most. If one thing is, if communication is 30% and product's 20, don't freaking go work on product. Let product function, let the leadership there go, and focus on the thing that matters the most, the thing that you can impact the most with. And stick at it for 90 days, 180 days. A lot of times as leaders, we'll go in and we'll have a talk with our team. Hey guys, we need to do better on this. Here's what we're going to do. And then we never come back to it. We don't enforce it to be corrected. We go on to the next thing. And so you're going to find very specific things that affect this, right? Depending on the products that you sell. If you told me you're an SEO company, I could come in and probably tell you within a few minutes where your weak points are, because we've studied this so much.
Yeah, cool. So you mentioned a resource at the start, a book that you read that talked a bit more in depth about this, just to give the guys maybe something to. What was that book called?
Yeah. Well, it's this chart that I was just doing a screen share on. Yeah. If you want a copy of that, and you could read kind of all the little details of it, it's at thehites.com/resources, thehites.com/resources. I could give it to you. You can give it out to anyone who wants it. It's a free resource. And again, just goes through this data and how to measure it out. How do you come up with your number in your agency?
Yeah, awesome. So as far as the enhancing service supply side of things too, we went through, I put a strategic council together for Globital to do this, but we went through the process from a book called The Inside Advantage, written by Robert Bloom. And that said basically sort of similar to what you were saying before. Takes us through a process to understand where we want our service to be, but where would it be if it was uncommon but repeatable, scalable, and then basically go through every single service touch point and ask the question, are we doing it there? Are we doing it there? Are we doing it there?
Yeah.
So that was quite a thorough process, and took a long time, but it's definitely worth it if you are improving through those steps of service. But I'm going to have to, as you said, I think I'm going to have to review my performance in my marriage to see how I'm going there also.
Yeah, be careful. Be careful. Don't show your wife this formula.
Yeah, I'm going to self-evaluate, I think.
There you go. That's right.
All right. Well, huge thanks, JC and Karen, for coming on and putting this on for our network. If people want to, does anyone have any questions first?
I could ask a quick question, but you seem to be wrapping up.
No, that's fine, Dave.
No, go for it, David.
Okay. JC, g'day. I'm Dave in Newcastle, Australia. I have never set up a contract with the client, and I'm relatively new in this space, although I've been freelancing and delivering services for about 5 years. So what advice would you have for someone just kicking off, aiming to get my clients onto recurring payment services such as SEO and ads?
Yeah. So, I mean, if how many clients do you have? Can I ask, David?
Only 3 or 4 at the moment.
Okay, you're getting started, right? So that's going to be less important, because you're in that first metric. One of the biggest metrics is the owner super involved in the account management of the clients, and because you are, that's a huge element, right? So I wouldn't either take action on this or don't spend too much time thinking through this contract idea. But your biggest limitation is in our heads around all of this stuff. I mean, the reason you're not charging. I have a franchise model, which means I've got people that buy into the Hite brand. They have the Hite brand. They have the fulfillment, same brand, same contract, same everything. But each franchise can charge whatever they want, right? And I have franchises that sell the same brand, same product, same everything, same team. One person will sell SEO for $3,000, one for $2,000. One will put it on a contract, and one might not. And the only thing it's up here. And so I wouldn't even think about it too much. I would get a copy of someone's contract that they use with their clients and just send it out like it's a normal thing. And the only you will have more questions on it than your client will, more than likely, because it's going to be a normal thing to them. Right?
As I'm listening to you, my brain produced this idea that it's probably best for me to have a bigger portfolio and some case studies before I ask anyone to commit.
Well, no, I wouldn't say that. I mean, are you committed to them?
Yeah, I am, and I can
Okay.
I can produce one authentic case study where it was all my manual labor, where I got someone from not on page one to at the top of page one, with a lot of hard work.
Well, I mean, so again, I wouldn't spend too much time going back and forth on this in your own head. I would spend energy focusing on, what you need to focus on. However, there's nothing stopping you from doing a contract. If I hired a brand new roofer to go install my roof, we'd probably sign a contract. Even if it was his first job, we'd probably sign a contract. It protects him if you have a good contract just as much as it protects you as well. And a lot of times it'll make the client feel more confident and comfortable. Now, you're an ethical man. You're a good guy. If you screw everything up, you're not going to hold him to this contract. And you couldn't hold him to this contract, by the way, probably. And so, but it allows the contract is nothing more than a written down statement of the expectations. The expectations is that I can do this. And because I can do this, you're going to pay me this for this many months. And so, again, it's the same thing. I always pull everything back to marriage. My wife and I are married, but we could go get a divorce if we wanted to. The marriage just simply is a guideline of rules to say this is what we are both expecting from each other. We could tear it up, but we choose not to. And so I wouldn't look at your contract so much as a handcuff to your client to forever pay you than a expectation guide on what you'll get more in trouble with not having contracts by a client asking you to build a website and you build it and they're like, oh no, I was supposed to get 2 more pages, or oh no, I was supposed to get this, and it's not clearly defined. Contracts are
hurt me a lot.
Are a good thing.
Scope creep is, Can I also ask you, in the beginning you were speaking about the ratio of churn relative to the different services, and PPC, you said it remains stable, but with SEO being 70% of the service, that then the churn decreases. So can you just, I didn't completely digest that piece of information. So PPC remains stable. Can you tell me what you meant by that?
Yeah, so there's a baseline churn rate. So we start off with 8%, right? And we move that up and down what we could expect if depending on these different factors. If you sell pay-per-click, it would stay at that baseline, whatever number you're at. Okay. If you're only selling SEO, I'm going to lower that baseline a little bit, right? Nobody signs up for SEO going, I want a 2-week fix. It's a longer term expectation, right? Yeah. With Facebook ads, I'm actually going to increase that churn. So what I'm telling you by increasing that churn is when I'm just telling you that you can expect, if you have a Facebook only agency, to have a higher level of churn than if you're selling SEO only.
Yeah.
So what you can do with that information is that if you're doing lower than that number, you may, I just need to go sell. I need to do more. This is within my realm of being okay. Or you could try to beat it. I'm not saying you can't beat it. I'm just saying these are the averages.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
So what do you usually say, like if you've got a 5-minute conversation with someone who does Facebook ads exclusively, like Facebook ads guy?
Let me ask you this. What do you mean by that?
Well, obviously you got to, out of all the data you presented, that was the most significant change in churn. So obviously there's a big industry churn, big expected churn just because of that product.
Yeah. Well, how many agencies can we think of? So is your question more on like, where's the data come from? Or is the question more on how do I look someone in the eyes that's selling that? And
so someone comes to you with their agency, they've got 50 clients and they're like, I don't know what to do with churn. It's like way high, I can't handle it, and I do Facebook ads.
Yeah. So normally I'm pretty sensitive because I'm a softie. I'm speaking on public and no one's sitting right here in front of me debating this, right? So one, I come back to just truth, right? Like I'm someone that I like to look at the big fish and go, okay, if Warren Buffett is invested in this company, like maybe I could as well. Like it can't be that bad, right? Like I am just not the smartest guy in the world. So what I look for is the truths among the big agencies, like the 100 largest agencies you guys can think of. Do you know how many are Facebook focused? Ad agencies?
No idea. Zero.
None of them.
Yeah.
None of them are Facebook. So that's just, man, that's interesting to me. Why? Right. And then I just kind of dig in, right? And so whenever I'm talking to a client and they're coming to me like, JC, I've got 35 clients. I'm losing 6 every month. I'm trying to gain 6. I'm not finding that growth. We start breaking it down, right? And normally I'll tell them to add another service. Like, can we add SEO to it? Can I anchor that? And I'll try to slow roll them into potentially something a little different. Again, I'm not telling you that you can't grow an agency with selling only Facebook ads. What I'm just saying is that your churn potentially will be much higher, anywhere from that 8 to 15% range. I haven't met an agency that does Facebook only that does less than 7 or 8% churn at scale. Anyways, of course they can have 3 clients to do it, but it just doesn't happen. Whenever I'm now buying agencies, if I know that you're only selling Facebook ads, that's exactly where I'm going, and more than likely I'm putting a discount on the evaluation.
Yeah, so this is like one of those mindset things as a business owner, I think, that you were talking to before, where, quite often as digital agencies, it's certainly how I started, we find something that we're pretty good at, and we get quite passionate about it, partly because we enjoy it, maybe partly because we've got this external validation for people. There's 2 or 3 friends that we really helped and they said we're really good at it, and then all of a sudden we're a Facebook ads person. But over time, as we transition into a business person, we have to start thinking about the reality of the environment that we operate in. And if it's Facebook ads, the reality is that there's an expected higher churn rate, and there are things we can do about it. And some of those things we can do about it are contained in the data that you've provided today.
That's right. And I want to say, like, if you're, man, I'm just really passionate about Facebook ads. Cool. Like, run your agency that way. But that's different, right? This is the tactician that loves Facebook ads, that enjoys it, that just understands the industry, that wants to build a great small business that services that. If you want to become an investor of your own business, meaning that I look at it from an outside lens, not married, and looking at it from an abstract view of, I want to sell this one day. Now you change those up. Now you're going, okay, what makes the most sense from a profitability standpoint in my business? How can I scale this? How can I sell this, right? I have changed my mindset over the last couple of years, and one of my favorite mentors has helped me with this. Is like, I'm an investor in Hite. I'm not the owner anymore. I'm an investor. Now, my hope is that every day it's such a great investment that I stay with it. But at the end of the day, I want to look at it through the eyes of an investor, and every day opt in to maintain my equity and not just go sell it on the market, right?
Yep, awesome. Well, I certainly have a lot to take away from today. So hugely grateful, JC and Karen, for coming and helping us and our audience of digital agencies too. Dave, do you have any more questions? Are there any more questions at all?
No, thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Awesome. So, JC, we'll make sure we have all those, all the links to where people can find you guys and the resources and the things that you're doing to help agencies at the moment. Hugely appreciative. Thanks everyone for watching, and I think we'll finish it here.
Love it. We'll see you guys. Ciao.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'll get all the links out to everyone.